Welcome into the Mountain Brook Schools Mountain Brook Athletics YouTube channel. We're glad you're here. My name is William Galloway. I'm the communications and PR specialist for Mountain Brook Schools. I help out Coach Andy Urban, athletic director with athletics now as well. And today's guest, I'll tell you what, when you talk about people and say he is one of the great ones or she is one of the great ones, today's guest is probably greater than the great ones. We're talking with Baynes Autrey, and he is a graduate of Mountain Brook High School, class of 2019, U.S. Naval Academy, graduate class of 2023, competed in track and field, and he was a multi-sport athlete, not just two, but three-sport athlete at Mountain Brook High School. Baynes, welcome in. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Glad to be here. I don't know if great is a good way to describe me, but certainly glad to be here.
Well, the uniform tells everybody that you are in military service and you were first lieutenant in the Marine Corps as a student pilot. We're going to talk about that because obviously that's exceptional. But you have a great story, and we're going to use this platform today to share that story. And let's go ahead and just get started. You graduated Mountain Brook in 2019. You were baseball, football, and then later on, senior year, you were a track athlete. But you went on to the U.S. Naval Academy very late in that process, in terms of getting there in summer of 2019. So tell us about your Mountain Brook experience and, I guess 6 years ago now, when you left this community. What do you remember about your time at Mountain Brook?
Yeah, I mean, growing up all throughout the Mountain Brook School and athletic program, like I learned so many lessons. Had so many fantastic coaches and mentors, like all the way from like Little League, Coach Morrow in seventh grade. I remember wrestling with Coach Jones, Coach Malloy, all the way through ninth grade, and then having the great opportunity in high school, like work with Coach Thorson, and he had such an impact on me. Coach Yeager, Coach Evans, Coach Gann on the baseball team, all the other baseball coaches, and then eventually kind of got weird story of how I got started in baseball or got started track. I just kind of got burnt out with baseball. Did a lot of talking with my grandfather, who was a long time coach of everything. Talked to my parents, talked to all my friends, and kind of just decided that baseball wasn't. It didn't really fuel the fire that I used to have for baseball, and kind of just wanted to go try something new. I had a bunch of friends on the track team who kind of encouraged me, said you'd be pretty good at this stuff. So I decided to give that a try. I went and had a conversation with Coach Gov, and told him I was like looking to run track. He told me he'd love to have me. So I went and talked to Coach Gann, talked to the rest of the baseball coaches, let them know like how much it impacted on me, but that I was going to go run track, and went out to the track. Um, they threw me in a bunch of different events. Javelin, long jump were I think the first two that they started me with. Threw me into hurdles, high jump, ran the 200. I basically they just threw me into anything, kind of just saw what stuck. Was a decent athlete and kind of picked up on some of the stuff relatively quickly, and was eventually doing well enough that I was able to reach out to some college coaches and got some looks. First one was from Sanford, and then reached out to the Naval Academy. It was Coach Joe Delgado, who was the Maltese coach when I first got in contact, and then also Coach Richardson at Auburn, the former West Point coach, and me getting contact with the Navy coaches. So that meant a lot for another school's coach to help me get in contact with kind of like my dream school. Um, but yeah, then from there was Naval Academy was like my first choice. Was on the wait list there after the initial selections came out, and I was kind of bummed. But luckily, like I talked to Coach Richardson at Auburn, and he was like, "We'd love to have you come run for us." So I was going to be a decathlete there. Had kind of already gotten settled. Was still on the wait list at Navy, but had kind of started moving on and like planning to go to Auburn. And then I think it was 8 days before our induction day, which is kind of like the start of our summer of basic training at the Naval Academy. I got a phone call. They were like, "Hey, you have 12 hours to let us know if you still want to come." So I hung up. I was coming out of the track practice with Coach Eccles actually. We'd done a nice 400 practice. I was dog tired already, so I called my
And this
parents.
is in like June at that point.
Yeah, this was June 19th of 2019. I think I reported June 27th of 2019. So literally a week before I had to be in Annapolis.
And did you jump on it immediately? They said you had 12 hours. Is that something where you were like, that's it? That's the dream? Because you mentioned that was the dream, but when you have a time crunch like that, pretty quick turnaround on a decision.
Yeah, I mean it was a shock at first. Like I think in my heart I knew what I was gonna do, but I think I had to give myself some time to like rationalize it, think through it, and kind of take some time, pray about it, talk to the people in my life, and it wasn't an easy choice. I mean, obviously, I grew up massive Auburn fan, still am to this day. But and I had the opportunity to compete at the D1 level at my favorite school growing up. But um, ultimately, I had bigger plans outside of college and school and track, and wanted to like ultimately end up becoming a pilot in the Navy or Marine Corps. Um, and then also just do something bigger than myself. And I think that's ultimately what led me to go to the Naval Academy.
That's incredible. Okay, so what a unique journey from being in high school, knowing what you want to do, and having that late switch gear because, you were playing football, you were playing baseball, you kind of realized there might be a path for me elsewhere. And as you talked about, having great relationships with those coaches, and then we'll talk about, the teachers and the school side. But getting into the Naval Academy is no easy feat, and getting waitlisted, so many people get denied. And so when you had that opportunity, on that fateful June day, that was something like you said, you were, a quick to think about the decision rationally and talk to the people in your life, and then you go and you do that. That's really awesome, Baynes. So your 4 years at Naval Academy, you set, I think, probably some records. I know you were a Patriot League champion, heptathlon, decathlon, and for those of you who are watching and may not know what those events are, tell us a little bit about that because it's a little bit of 60-meter long jump, shot put. You said you did a little bit of everything. Coach McGovern at Mountain Brook High School tried to fit you where you could in track, but the heptathlon and decathlon are multi-sport events.
Yeah, I kind of describe it as kind of being like the jack of all trades, but master of none, but better than a master of one of the track and field gang. So the decathlon outdoors, it's the 100-meter dash, the 110 hurdles, 400-meter dash, 1500, long jump, high jump, pole vault, shot put, javelin, and discus, all spread out over 2 days of competition. And then the heptathlon is the indoor analog. It's 7 events, but each one basically has an analog to outdoor. So it's a lot. There's a lot to train for, but it's definitely fun. Yeah.
Mountain Brook has had multiple students go on to the Naval Academy and West Point and Air Force and a variety of military services. So you're one of a lot of great individuals, young men and women who've gone on from Mountain Brook High School. Tell me a little bit about, do you wear that as a badge of honor? Because I've talked to other folks who have been at the U.S. Naval Academy specifically, and they talk about how they had a leg up on their peers. Athletically, obviously, you did because you were a Conference League champion in the Patriot League, but academically and with your Mountain Brook background and your brothers, your family, your support system here in Mountain Brook, how prepared did you feel to take that next step and take a late leap of faith that summer and go into the Naval Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mountain Brook does an extreme job of preparing you for the next level. Even at a school, it's known for being rigorous, like the Naval Academy. I felt super prepared, and especially in like my writing skills. All my English teachers, shout out Miss Marks, my favorite English teacher of all time. Like I just felt so prepared that like sitting down and writing a paper, I was probably graded harder in high school than I was in college, which was um, it was good for me because I felt, above and beyond prepared and was able to help my peers out when they were writing papers. Same thing with like math and science side, like Miss Wanda Burns's calculus class. My senior year was probably the hardest math class I took, including at the years at the Naval Academy. So, and then just the support system, like you're in Mountain Brook, like you're held to such a standard in everything that you do. It's such a good way that like the expectation is that you will continue maintaining high standards for yourself and to set your bar high and to understand that if you put your mind to something, you can absolutely go out and attain it and achieve it. And definitely learned that while I was in school growing up in Mountain Brook.
Yeah, Baines, I want to ask you something too, because there may be someone watching this a month or 6 months or a couple of years from now who wants to take something from your story. And I think something that a lot of folks in later high school, junior, senior, when they're looking at what's next and they think that they have an idea of what they want to do. When you were a junior, you probably didn't want to go to the Naval Academy. You weren't a track athlete yet. And I can't speak for you on going to the Naval Academy or not. You said it was your dream later on. But for someone who thinks they have it mapped out and plans change, what would your message to them be? Because ultimately it worked out not only for good, but for great in your case.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that hard work and dedication, it doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees that you can put yourself in a position where you can succeed. So like for me, like I didn't know that I was going to get into the Naval Academy, that I was going to be running track, but like growing up playing football, I wasn't the best athlete. Like you can ask any of my peers or heck, even some of my coaches growing up. Like I was always undersized and took a long time to grow into my body. But I was always one of the hardest working people on a team. Always like encouraging others to work hard, and eventually that hard work paid off. Like I grew into my body, grew into a decent athlete, and if it's on the football field, on the track, on the baseball field, in the classroom, or now in the jet. Um, if you work hard and put your mind to something and don't allow people to tell you that you can't do something, you can absolutely achieve it.
Yeah, I want to ask you a couple more specifics because that hard work is obviously shown, and we'll get to you being in Meridian right now and being a student pilot. But when you think about that hard work and being a Patriot League champion and ascending in something where you didn't even have a foothold in a year prior, and the lessons that you take from Mountain Brook. What is something that you look back on in your time? And I kind of hinted at this earlier, but you were a national merit finalist. You were a multi-sport athlete. You were involved in a lot of clubs, had success in a lot of the areas that you touched. Mountain Brook is obviously a high achieving community and has, whether it's parental expectations for their children or students' expectations for themselves, there could be kind of a pressure bubble. So tell me a little bit about that pressure bubble, how you were able to overcome that. And you talk about being successful and working hard and knowing that you can navigate the unexpected. Tell me a little bit about how you navigated that pressure bubble in order to find success.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there is inherent pressure with how high achieving our community is. I think humility is a huge part of that. Is relying on the people around you, whether it be like your peers, a mentor, coaches, teachers, like going to them, asking them if you need help, accepting coaching, and especially accepting criticism, which can be super hard to do, especially growing up. Like it's hard to have somebody tell you you're doing something wrong when you think you're doing it right. But I think just being able to accept that with humility and just being coachable, it allows that pressure to you still feel the pressure, but it kind of disperses because you don't put all it on yourself. You allow other people to help you out and kind of carry that load with you.
Yeah. Is there any similarity? This is a lot more lighthearted. That was a great answer. Is there any similarity in learning how to navigate a fighter jet versus a high school football two-a-day practice?
Ooh, I think there definitely is. I don't know what's harder, to be honest with you. I think a high school football 2 day practice is definitely more physically demanding. Um, but there's definitely some similarities there.
What do you miss about Mountain Brook? Obviously, you're in Meridian now, and so you're not too far, and I'm sure you get home a decent amount. But about the community, or maybe it's a restaurant. Tell me when you look back on your memories and the times you had here. What do you reflect on, and what comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I just missed I remember I was home a few weeks ago and like just going on to Crestline Bagel, running into people that you know, then running and grabbing some like coffee at the Crestline coffee shop down there. Just the community, like everyone always has a smile on their face. You run into someone you know, like I ran into some guys I went to high school with and hadn't seen them in 6 years, and, like just caught up like it was just like graduation day from high school. Just a super welcoming community.
Yeah. All right, Baynes, tell me this too, because people are curious. Your day to day is not their day to day, although there may be some more similarities that they don't know, that we may not know about in what you do in your daily life. So, kind of give us a day in the life or a week in the life of Baynes Autrey.
Yeah, well, just I'll just give a brief explanation of how I got to here from the Naval Academy. So I graduated, selected Marine Corps pilot, went to a 6 month course in Quantico, Virginia called the Basic School, which all Marine Corps officers go through. Upon completion of that, went down to Pensacola, Florida, for my academic phase of flight training. Completed that. Then went out to Corpus Christi, Texas, down southeast Texas, about 2 hours from San Antonio, and did what's called primary, where you fly a 1100 horsepower single propeller aircraft, learn the basics of aviation, and then from there selected jets, which moved me to Meridian, Mississippi. And now I'm about to start ground school, which is my academic phase. I'll do 2 weeks, about 8 hours a day, kind of just like going to class, just like normal, kind of feels like college again. And then I'll get into simulations. So simulators, they like mimic the airplane, but it's a no risk environment. Kind of learn how to fly it, and then obviously eventually I'll get into the jet, and it's I kind of relate it back to being a track athlete in college. Like there's a lot of preparation. Like you got to prep your body, make sure you're eating right, mentally prepare yourself before you get into the kind of You walk yourself through each flight before you do it, kind of like you would for a football game. You do your walkthroughs, like literally walking through the course that will fly for a flight. And then you get in there and it's time to execute, and you kind of got to mentally lock in and do what you've prepared for. So I'd say it's very similar to being a high school or college athlete.
Yeah. And so my follow up there, which is again very fundamental and shows my lack of intelligence in the area of what you do, how dramatized is Top Gun and Top Gun 2?
There's some parts of it that are pretty, I mean, pretty real. Like you're up there, you're pulling G's, you're ripping around pretty high speeds. What I don't think they really show is the preparation that goes into a flight. Like for each hour that you're up in the air, you're spending probably 3 or 4 hours studying, an hour briefing, and an hour debriefing. So you're probably spending 8 hours for a single hour flight. And they don't really show that, but I think they get the cool parts. We don't get to always, get up there and be ripping around like Maverick, but we kind of wish we would.
All right, Baines, tell me a little about some other folks. I know Duncan Morris was in my grade at Mountain Brook High School, and some other people that have gone on to the Naval Academy and various service academies. But kind of the relationship, people like, and they don't all, not everybody is a student pilot or has gone to do aviation. But just thinking of some names, and certainly I'm going to leave some off. But I remember I've talked to Sam Graham. Duncan was in my grade. Obviously, you're a great representative from your time in Mountain Brook and then your time since Mountain Brook and what you've done. So tell us a little bit about that fraternity of guys and girls who are military service in Mountain Brook graduates.
Yeah, it's actually super cool how many guys and gals that we have that are either academy grads or that did ROTC or that are just in the services in general. Out of my grade, I know Holly Chapman. She graduated last year from West Point. She's I believe driving tanks for the Army now, which is super cool. Like you said, Duncan Morris, he is a step ahead of me, so he's flying the F-35 now out of Beaufort, South Carolina. He's killing it out there. Thomas and Sam Graham. Thomas is out in San Diego doing some squirrely special operator stuff. Absolutely just an animal, killing it out there. Sam, I think, will graduate from the academy this year. We've got myself, Zach McLean, and Alec Johnson all graduated class of 2019, all naval aviators now. Alec will be flying the E6 out of Oklahoma City, and then Zach, I believe, just selected Marine Corps helicopter, so he'll be flying either the Huey or Cobra here in a couple years. So it's a cool, super cool like level of camaraderie. Like you run into these guys that you went to high school with, and you hear that they're also doing this whole military thing, and it's definitely a kinship. You have a special bond with everybody who's in the services.
Yeah, it's a lot more cool than than things other folks are doing. Not to diminish those, but you have great stories and an opportunity to share that, to just have time and talk with you across the screen from screen to screen and see you and catch up is awesome. I remember, I think you and I went on some big time retreats and mission trips together, and so seeing the progression of how we take our common thread of being from Mountain Brook High School in Mountain Brook, Alabama, and go off and doing great things in the world. I want to speak on behalf of all of our community and all of our school system and say thank you to not only you, Baynes, but to all the wonderful young men and women who've graduated Mountain Brook, and not just in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but of all time. Mountain Brook's been around over 60 years, tens of thousands of graduates, and everybody that has gone on from this community to serve our military and our country. We salute you and we appreciate your service, Baynes. I do one thing on our podcast, and it makes me happy. You could go for 20 minutes if you'd like, but you have an open mic. And with this opportunity, you've talked about Miss Marks, you've talked about Miss Burns, but anybody that you'd like to give a shout out that may check out this podcast, whether it's in the community, whether it's from your time in college, in school now, growing up, family, friends, whoever it may be, the floor is yours to share whatever you'd like, and then we'll close things out.
Oh God, there's a countless number of people that I could shout out, but yeah, definitely. I said Miss Marks, Miss Burns, new Mount Brook High School teacher, Mr. Mark Smith, graduated with him. Good friends with Mark. Let's see, obviously my parents, Coach Gov, Coach Gann, all the baseball coaches. Let's see, Coach Porter, who's now a principal at the high school, I hear, which is really cool. Good to see Coach Porter still doing it. Coach Jones. Oh man, I mean, countless people that have had such an impact in my life. I could literally go on for an hour, but I'm leaving a million people off. But I'm so thankful for everyone who had an impact on my life, and Yeah, if anyone is watching this that's on that list or that you will be on that list, like just a massive thank you. And I can't share how gracious I am for the impact you had on me.
Well, Baynes, thank you for your time. Thank you once again for your service and the great representation that you have as a Mountain Brook graduate, now doing wonderful things in the world, serving our country, but also the friendship and knowing you for a long time and the humility that you have and you carry yourself with. Thank you for your time and thank you for helping share your story on our Mountain Brook Schools and Mountain Brook Athletics platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. It was blessed.